So this is going to be a full in-depth training on exactly how to build a pay-per-lead business from scratch in 2026. This is going to be a full beginner's guide. If you check out the Miro here, you could see that there's 12 different steps that I've outlaid of how to build a pay-per-lead business in 2026. Keep in mind, for credibility, just so you know, I have built and scaled my pay-per-lead business to over $400,000 a month. My partner Billy is at $350,000 a month. We have a school community with over 1,000 people in it in the pay-per-lead niche. It's called Pay-Per-Lead Nation. We also have a pro community and a done-for-you program. And so essentially, this is why I have the credibility to be able to talk about all of this, is because I've been doing pay-per-lead for a really long time, before it was popular now on the internet, okay? And so I know the things that were working, are not working anymore, are working now, so on and so forth. So now I could lead you through the whole process, from how the model works, how to pick your niche, how to build it, how to get buyers, how to stay compliant, how to scale, how to do better customer acquisition, what the first 30 days of doing it actually looks like, because that's what nobody tells you about all this stuff. It's not going to tell you how it actually works. So I'm going to show you exactly how it works. So hopefully you come and you could get this Miro board for free in the link in the description after you're done. It's completely free and you'll be able to get all of this information, okay? So let's start, because this is going to be quite a long video, so we can build from there. So the first thing we want to look at is going to be the master board, right? So when you get the Miro board from the link in the description, you can see all of these different terms that are going to be things that I talk about. And then this is how we are going to go about this. So you have the first row right here, which is mainly your foundation, right? So this is the foundations of pay-per-lead. Then second right here, you have how it all works. So like everything that you need to actually run your business. And then this is how you scale. So everything on this row is how you scale. So remember, you have the foundation of the business is going to be right here. Then this is how the business works. And then this is how you scale, okay? So let's go into the first part here of how the model actually works. So pay-per-lead is interesting. It's not like an agency, right? So with pay-per-lead, what you see is how the selling lead model works and how the selling calls model works on this graphic. Pay-per-lead, what you do is you put in ad spend, you run ads on, let's say it's Meta, it could be TikTok, could be Google search. Some people even sell leads. There's like a model called Rank and Rent, where you essentially will have really good SEO, and that's just search engine optimization. So people will make, you know, websites where they drive traffic to it, and then they get the leads for free, and then they sell them. So after you have your ads, or however you're getting your traffic, so it could be ads, SEO, Google search, then you have a quiz funnel. So this is where you capture all the leads. You make a quiz for them to capture the leads. You get their name, phone number, email, you know, what service they're looking for. Let's say it's plumbing, for instance, you know, what they're looking for, and then the buyer pays you for that lead. So just to review, you put in a spend first, you run ads on Meta or, you know, Google or whatever it may be, TikTok, you capture the lead through like a quiz form, and then you get the lead's information and then you sell it to a buyer. Now, normally what happens when you get the lead is you don't see the lead. It goes straight to a buyer through a lead distribution software. So that lead distribution software will divvy it out to multiple buyers at once when you have multiple buyers. But calls is pretty much the same thing. So you can also sell calls. Now, I mostly sell calls because it's a much more high intent thing to do. Because yes, somebody can fill out a lead form, but inbound calls are so much more valuable to business owners. So for instance, you put up the spend, then you run call ads, which are call only buttons. So I'm sure you've seen the little QR codes on YouTube ads. You might see stuff on Google My Business profiles, things like this. This is a call only ad. Then it routes to what's called IVR, right? So IVR is where it's like, press 1 to qualify. It's like stuff like that. So that's like the IVR, and then it gets routed to the buyer. Now, the good thing about calls, and the reason why it's cool, is because your qualified call has to happen for 90 seconds or more. So because they're so intentful, usually majority of calls are qualified. But for a buyer, it's such a good value proposition to them because it's not like you're paying a retainer or anything like that. You sell calls because they close more and they have to have a conversation for 90 seconds. Now, what that is a 90-second buffer, it's called in the 90-second buffer shows that, okay, this person had a conversation with a potential customer for 90 seconds or more. And so that's literally like saying, hey man, I'll get you all these calls to go to your business. You're going to have a minute and 30 conversations with them. If you don't pay for it. Like, that's the best offer in the world. Now, I don't just say that because I sell them. I say that because it's genuinely good. Like, think about it. So they pay per billable call. Now, if a call gets, pushed back, let's just say somebody didn't get qualified enough, what happens is, okay, we just refund the call and it's done, right? So that's how the leads and calls model works. So let's do some quick math on this. So if you put $1,000 in ad spend and you $25 CPL, right? That's 40 leads at a $25 CPL. You sell at 60 a lead. Okay, that's a $2,400 in revenue. You have $1,400 profit at a 58% margin, right? Now calls, let's say you put $1,000 of ad spend, you make, okay, you're getting 40 per qualified call, for 25 calls, and you sell at 110 a call because calls are obviously more expensive. It's way more intent, and you make $2,750 in revenue, but you profit $1,750. So the calls are going to pay more because they close more and they're more expensive, right? So when you're looking at this, you want to look for what's good for your industry. For instance, merchant cash advance. Merchant cash advance forms mostly go in this industry, but in insurance, calls are huge. So we sell a lot of final expense calls in my pay-per-lead business. Now, for final expense, the calls are big because our connected TV calls, so that's like the Google QR ads, go for so much more and they close a lot better. So that's how the calls and leads model works. So you risk your money for ad spend, you run ads on Meta, TikTok, Google, you either have a call button or a quiz funnel to capture the lead gets routed to the buyer and the buyer pays you for it. Now, usually the buyer will pay you up front. So if you're good at sales, usually the buyer will pay you up front. Now, I always tell my students to do that because obviously you can't double risk your money. That's like weird to do that because now you're relying on them in an industry you don't know. So if you're just starting out, you should always have them pay up front. But if you have long-term contracts with big commercial buyers, right, like big insurance agencies, like we do pay per billable call. So when a call comes in, we get paid for it. So stuff like that is like what you'll grow to, and eventually it will go spiral down into you're getting paid much more per call. So now that we've established how the model works, we want to go into how to pick your niche. So there's a couple of different things right here. So when you pick your niche, it's similar to an agency, right? So for an agency, you will essentially choose a vertical you want to be in, just like anything else. Okay, I do cold email for construction companies. I do cold email for, home buyers, whatever it may be. It's the same thing in pay-per-lead. You just pick a niche though, because you have to have specialized ads in that niche. Now, when you're picking your niche, you want to basically do math to understand exactly how this works. So first of all, let's see here. So in MVA, this is like a really good niche because, there's a lot of buyers, it's advanced, but the ad risk is extremely high. So it's really costly to generate leads in MVA, but the best thing about MVA is that they pay way more for calls, right? You can get up to like, 250, 300 a call even, but it's really advanced. Where life insurance is, more beginner friendly, they pay pretty good per call, but there's a constant stream of buyers. So this is where you have like different niches, okay? I've done in all of these niches, I've ran ads in. So these are all 10 niches that I've done that I'm just showing you. Okay, hey, here is the amount of buyers. Here is the risk that you have to put up front for ads. and then the verdict is where you should start. So I would not recommend starting with something like Medicare or, addiction treatment, right? I would recommend starting with, okay, maybe we start with estate planning, maybe we start with insurance, maybe we start with final expense or cash home buyers. Now, basically what I've came up with is a scoring rule. So a niche must pass these 3 rules, essentially, for it to be a niche worth your time. So there's plenty of buyers, okay? The lead price is 2.5 to 3x of what it costs you to get one. And then ads you can run without getting banned. So addiction treatment, if you try to run ads in it, you get banned. You need a legit script. So skip that, right? So these are things you should skip as a beginner. So something that's not gated for you, like you need a certificate of compliance. Something where there's a very small buyer pool where like you get one client and they like own you essentially. And then anything you cannot get an ad approved for. So this is how I would look at this for your niche. Now, essentially, when you're looking at your niche, obviously there's leads and calls. So I talked about this before where the leads thing, you have leads which are form fills and calls versus booked appointments, right? So if you get calls, you can have a call center potentially where you book them in on an appointment. And then I'm sure you guys have seen ads for stuff like this where it's like pay per booked appointment. Pay per booked appointment is pay per lead, except that you are just generating a lot more value upfront. So like you're selling it to them for much more. And this is very good if you, let's say, want to sell to like roofers, right? There's a gentleman I know that does very, very well with who sells booked appointments and roofing, and that's a really good thing. The next part of this is going to be your offer and pricing, okay? So as far as your offer and pricing, you have a couple of different things here. So this is the simplest place to start, is per lead, right? So you will essentially have your quiz funnel, and the quiz funnel will you'll go through the quiz. They'll answer a couple of questions about it, similar to, and then you send an invoice up front for, let's say 40, and then they pay you for it. And so the reason why it beats just like a regular form is because you get them interested in the service because they spent time to fill it out, right? If you just get their contact info, there's no intent, right? But when they're filling out in a form, what that does is it creates intent. So when you go fill out a form, you obviously have to spend time on it. So it creates intent when you spend time on a form, okay? Now, the next one is pay per call. So this is a much higher payout thing. This is what I do, but essentially there's a lot more risk in it for me because, for instance, let's just say I screw everything up and I have a bunch of shitty calls. I'll lose a ton of money if I sell a bunch of shitty calls, right? So like that's what you don't want to do. But then here is the booked appointment thing, pay per booked appointment. So essentially what you have here is, you have per booked appointment where it's the highest price thing you could sell for because it's calls that you took, then you play an appointment on, but you take a ton of risk for this if the client doesn't show or things like that. Then there's also rev share. So rev share, you can get paid on a rev share. So this is what I do in one of my verticals in senior living. So for every placement I make in a senior living center, I get paid for it, right? So that's what I do for my offer and pricing, and you can do all of them. I suggest you start with leads or calls, okay? Now, the reason why I say that is because it's the simplest place to get started, and you should never overcomplicate this stuff. Because the more you overcomplicate it and try to get shifty with it, you try to get fancy, this is when, shit hits the fan, okay? So don't get fancy, just sell leads or calls, and then you can go and start to do other things as you grow, okay? So there's also part of this that's exclusive versus shared leads, okay? So exclusive leads are leads that belong to one buyer, and shared are, shared leads, you share them with a bunch of different buyers. But shared leads are really good in like lending or insurance. The problem with shared leads is that it's much harder to close because now your buyers are competing with other buyers. So you are making it harder for yourself. selling shared leads if you don't have a huge buyer who doesn't care, who's good at sales. Which I'm guessing for most of you watching this video, you don't have a buyer that's spending $100,000 a month with you on leads, that it's okay for shared. That's totally okay. We'll get there, and then shared can really make sense. Exclusive, you could also sell for 2 to 3x the price of shared, right? Start exclusive. I would say you should definitely start with that because that's your whole pitch, right? We have exclusive leads. Okay, we'll generate you exclusive leads for a pay per results basis. Boom, done. That's your sales pitch, all right? It's as easy as that. You're not selling a marketing retainer where you basically go and tell them, hey, yeah, so hey, business owner, we'll charge you $5,000 a month, and we don't know if we're gonna get you any leads, but you should pay us. A YouTuber told me that it was good for you to pay us, right? Well, that doesn't make much sense, right? So what person in their right mind is gonna trust a noob to do that? And that was me, not too long ago. I was a fucking noob, and I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this as an agency owner? So that's why pay per lead is so much better. You're like, hey, business owner, how many leads do you want? You want 100 leads? They're exclusive. Also, yeah, you only have to pay for ones that are qualified. It's like, dude, what person in their right mind wouldn't think that's smart? What one would you pick? The red pill or the blue pill? Obviously, you're picking the one that's, you get exclusive leads on a pay per results basis, right? So now the other thing you need to know is what you should price things like. So for instance, you should always price leads about 2.5 to 3x your cost. So essentially, you want to also think about what they're making on it. So I always try to give my clients at least 3 to 3.5x ROI on all the money they spend with me. So that's what I'm trying to do. But basically, if you have a cost per lead of 25, you want to sell for 65 to 75, and anything below that, you should walk away because your margins will be too thin. And if your lead price skyrockets right at scale, you're going to get fucked. And it's happened to me. So do not do that unless you're making a 2.5 to 3x ROI. Now, the next thing you should do is understand what your lead spec should be. So essentially, your lead spec is your niche, your geo. So your geo is where you are in the world, right? Could be Europe, could be US. I recommend if you're doing pay per lead, US business owners are used to paying for leads, but you get all of the fields delivered as well, plus the exclusivity, plus the delivery method, plus the delivery hours. Okay, that's your lead spec, right? Now your call spec is a billable call is 90 plus seconds. It's connected during business hours from what geo, so from United States, the unique caller ID, and then you could also do both, right? So it would be your price per unit plus replacement terms for bad or duplicate numbers, and then payment terms. So whether it's a prepay pilot and then a net 7. So if you're into affiliate marketing, you understand that most affiliates get paid on a net 7, net 14, or net 30. Most people in pay per lead, they're like, oh, I get paid on a net 14. It's like, bro, get your customers to pay you up front. It's not hard. You suck at sales if you can't get them to prepay you. And you should not be running a business if you do that. So I'm just being totally honest about that. There's a lot of people I see out here saying, oh, net 7, net 14. It's like, no, bro, that's not how it works. And if you've been doing this long enough, you'll know that that's exactly not how it works. That's just running affiliate traffic. And at that point, it's not what you're supposed to be doing. So with that being said, we've went over 2 things so far. So we've went over the how to pick your niche, how the model works, 3 things, and how offer and pricing works. Now, what do the funnels actually look like? Okay, so remember, leads and calls. Okay, appointments come from leads or calls, right? It's your call center or your dialers who have to put that together. Here's how the funnel works. Okay, so you have essentially right here, you have somebody will click an ad, and essentially sometimes you'll make an advertorial. So if you've ever seen what a listicle is, it's just an article about the thing, right? And that's called a bridge page. So a bridge page warms cold traffic. And the reason why it's good to do things like that is if you're running ads to a very cold audience and having a bridge page, the bridge page warms up all these buyers and then they land on the next to fill out the form. And so then you have your quiz, which qualifies the lead. So if it's an unqualified lead, you don't send it to your buyer. And then you have your contact info plus something called TCPA consent. This is something that nobody talks about, but you have to be compliant, okay? The reason why this business is all great is because, yeah, you can make a shit ton of money and it's a great business, but you have to be compliant. There's a lot of guys out here who do this uncompliantly, and they're absolutely retarded because, I'm sorry, if you can't run ads and get buyers, you suck, right? So I'm just saying, you can't run ads and get buyers, you have to text blast. Like, okay, bro, like, yeah, you're literally doing it on easy mode. I could do that in any day of the week and get a shit ton of easy leads, but I don't because I do it the right way. I'm compliant, and that's how you keep customers for longer, okay? So next is the thank you page. So this is where you have a thank you page on your form after the lead goes through it, and this will show set expectations. It will warm them up to show them exactly who they're going to be called by, right? And so a good headline formula for this is audience plus pain plus speed. Okay, injured in a crash in Texas, find out what your case is worth in 60 seconds. Okay, audience plus pain plus speed. Okay, injured in a crash in Texas, find out what your case is worth in 60 seconds. All right, so literally as easy as that, bro. Okay, so same thing with call funnel. Okay, let's go over call funnel. So basically you have your ad with a call button. It's a call only style ad. Like, think about like a Google business profile or like a Google ad. And then the landing page has like a giant number on it. It's like a fat number that's like click to call. Okay, so they can't really click anywhere but call. Okay, now the IVR, what it does is it routes it to the right person based on when they click. So I have like a bunch of different buyers at any given time. And so essentially what you have here is you have an IVR where they press 2 to get connected to another person. It will route to the buyer, and then, the lead will, they might call them back, okay? So this is what you do with a call. Basically, it's like you'll start with like a mini quiz where it's like, what state are you in? Okay, how much debt do you have? And then it will be like the call. So like they'll get the form plus the call. So then we just have to make sure that the lead gets routed to the right person so we get their information and different things like that. So let's just exit out all of this just so that I'll do it later. Anyways, you get the gist, okay? So different quizzes for calls, different quizzes for leads, okay? Call versus lead. Now, next thing we have is going to be how you run traffic. So here are some very simple ways that you can do your traffic system. So paid traffic, right? Ads. So you have overlay ads. I'm sure you've seen like some text overlay ads. Kind of looks like there's like some text and it's like a video of the background, just all it is. So you can basically, make it look like it's a native video, right? Native to the platform. And then you have like PSA. Like one of my biggest ones is like this PSA style where it's like PSA, insurance agency owners, like blah, 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 blah. And so that looks like it's like, what's this? And so basically after that, I have UGC videos. So where it's just like you have a UGC video where it's like a hook, a story, a CTA, and you can order them from like 5 to 10 different creators on like Fiverr. Okay. And like, if you just run these kinds of ads, like I'm telling you, you will do good. And like everybody who's watching this video, if you know what you're doing, you'll know that I'm not bullshitting. Like if you just run simple ads like this, you can easily get cheap leads. Like it's not very hard. Okay. Then for your account structure, this is kind of like a noob account structure. Not really, but like I am all about simple beating clever. Like that's my whole MO, is just like keep it where you just have one campaign, you have a broad targeting, you put 3 to 5 creatives in an ad set, you have 3 to 5 ad sets, and you have a CBO, okay? When you want to switch to a scaling campaign, you run an ABO, okay? Simple as, all right? Now for your budget, you want to start with $50 to $100 a day, and you do only want to judge things in 72-hour windows. Do not, and I'm telling you right now, do not look at an ad after 2 or 3 days and be like, oh my God, it's costing too much, like I don't know what to do. Dude, this is part of running a business, right? You lose money sometimes. It's okay. Like, it's okay, right? This is why you watch YouTube videos, so you can find out the information you need. All right? So after this, you scale winners. I have a rule, scale winners by 20 to 30% per day, and I never double budget overnight. And I still do that at over 400K a month. If you could do that, if I could do that, you could do that. Okay. So here are my kill rules. I kill a creative at a 2x. Usually I can afford to do this at a 2x, but you can do it at a 1.5x. 2x your target CPL. So if you have a lead, or if you have an ad that's 2x your target CPL, or for you guys, I would say even 1.5x your target CPL, we could kill that if it's got 0 leads. So if it's at or under target, you want to keep feeding it 20 to 30% per day budget. And it's literally that simple, to run ads. It's that simple. So special ad categories are some things here though that can convert and that you need to be aware of. So for finance, insurance, and housing, you must declare that on Meta. So there's a little box under the campaign where you just check the box. And then for call ads, Google call only really only convert in super hot niches. So insurance, finance is impossible to break into on Google, because you have LendingTree, you have Bankrate, you have all these big guys who just have it on lockdown on all the SEO. So you have to go so local for that. But here is what you need, all you need to know for what to do for an ad. So you just fill in your niche based on this hook bank. If you have pain, stop scrolling. Blank state drivers, you may be owed more than you think. Bank said no, this is what owners do next. Selling a house costs you. So just think about these hooks. These are all hooks that you can apply right here to any different niche. Hook, okay? Let's actually do this here too. Boom, done. Hooks, all right? Now next, let's go to tracking. So tracking. This is really the moat, okay? Now the reason why I say this is the moat is because this is what 99% of people do not talk about when they're talking about pay per lead or selling leads. Is you need a ridiculous tracking. I hear about this person who's selling a bunch of broker traffic right now, who's none of the people who are brokering their traffic are getting paid for it, because the pixel is picking up all the old leads that were on it, and essentially it's just screwing everybody over. So what essentially we have to do here is you have to have your own tracking set up so you could set it up properly. Now you need something called Meta Conversions API. So basically your pixel, what you hear people say, your Conversions API will fire when somebody fills out the form. So on the thank you page of the form, that's when you have your pixel event fire. Now fire just means it goes off, it happens. So it's what this is I set up basically this thing with Stape. I use, this is a plug for Stape, but Stape.io, you can set up server-side tracking to track all of your metrics. And then the CRM can even mark each of these leads as qualified or sold. So then you can send those events back to Meta, and Meta will now go, shit, it's going to optimize for the leads that sell and not just the forms that submit. So this is a moat that nobody in Pay-Per-Lead talks about, whereas if you have good buyers that will let you sell or let you send back data to your, get with partnerships with these guys, and all you have to do is just be like, yo, we'll give you some free leads if you let us send data back to our pixel. Because now you're training on leads that are actually qualified versus people who are just selling maybe qualified forms, okay? So this is a moat that I've used to scale much faster, much quicker, much more efficiently, because people are too afraid to ask for doing things like this. So basically for your call tracking, it's similar. So a unique basically ID per campaign that you run, right? And so basically the ring pool, this is just the pool of calls that you've had together. So if you were to literally look in a pool, right, there'd be a bunch of calls that happen, and then it will show which ad actually converted or which converted on based on the ID. So now I can go look back and say, oh, nice, that we had on Google, that was the one that converted this buyer, right? And so basically I get the duration of the call recordings, and everything logged on every single call I sell. And then I have all of my billable calls post back to the ad platform. So now all of the billable calls, all of the calls over 90 seconds, they get sent back to Meta, Google, Connected TV to basically show that, hey, this was a good call. We want more of these. And all tracking is, at the end of the day, all it is just basically saying, hey, Meta, hey, Google, this was good. We want more, right? That's really all it is. So basically you want to essentially, now that you have that tracking part, there's also the metrics to it. So you need to track your spend, your CPL or cost per call, your contact rate, your qualified percentage, your sell-through rate, your revenue, and your margin. Now, basically, you want to make sure that you tag everything. So there's something called UTM parameters plus your sub ID will be tracked on everything you do. So make sure you hire someone on Fiverr to do your tracking or something like that. And this way, you can send that back to your CRM so you always know which ads are making you more money. That's it. You want to know what ads make you more money. And if you don't know that, then you are doing something wrong, and you should stop what you're doing until you have this set up, because this is going to help you scale much faster, much further, and much more efficient. So I know I'm going fast, but there's a lot to go through. So feel free to slow down this in real time. Now, CRM and delivery. How do we do this stuff? Well, first of all, you have basically a pipeline of how the delivery works. So you could set this up for your clients. If they don't have this set up, you can even see people hey, this is a good offer. You could run this right now, but you could go high level sub account to your buyer. Hey, we'll give you a free sub account if you buy our leads, something like that. Free CRM if you buy our leads. So yeah, if somebody's on here, you want to try that out and let me know how it goes. That would actually be cool. As far as the delivery goes, you have new, you have leads that are contacted, leads that are qualified, leads that are delivered, leads that are billable and sold, and then leads that are disputed or were replaced. This is just so you can have a separate CRM or tracking system set up for this. This is something that I do just to make sure that I see everything of my B2C funnels in one dashboard, okay? And so basically what you have here is a couple of different things. Your speed to lead, you want to make sure that if your customers are not good at what they do, it's going to be hard to scale. But if they are, you want to make sure that they instantly get an SMS and email, and then they get a call by minute 2, right? They get a call from the customer or by you, minute 2, right? And then day 1, you need to call the lead at least 3 times. You should tell your customers, call the leads 3 times, okay? If it's a call, they already got on the phone with them, so you don't have to worry about it. This is mainly for lead forms, okay? Now, as far as routing, what I usually do is set up what's called a round robin between my buyers. So all I do is I have 10 buyers. Each lead, it's okay, if this buyer's in Nevada, it goes to Nevada. If I'm only selling buyers in Nevada and I have 10 buyers in Nevada, what I just do is go, okay, buyer 1 get lead, buyer 2 get lead, buyer 3 get leads. It goes in a circle like a round robin, right? And so what you can do is with your lead distribution software, you could set daily caps per buyer. That is something you can do with that. Now, as far as call routing, okay? So call routing, it's IVR will qualify them. It will ring the buyer directly, so it's not like a live transfer where you could potentially get people that will, let's just say somebody up a bunch of cold leads and transfer it. That's a live transfer, and that's why sometimes some of the live transfers are very bad because they got drummed up by a call center. But what you want is to get leads that are inbound calls. You do not want to sell live transfer calls. They suck because, listen, it's like some guy in India who's drumming up all the business. So don't do that. Now, next is going to be delivery. What does the buyer want? Just ask them, okay? Whether they want a webhook, whether they want to go into their CRM, a Google Sheet, whether it's a live transfer, a dedicated inbound number, whatever they want, this is the way you should do it. Now, obviously, this is harder to easier, right? So, okay, if it's easy to go use a Google Sheet, perfect. If it's easy to do a live transfer, okay, even better because, you could charge less for them or whatnot. But you can automate all of this, okay? And so basically you can use GHL or N8N or your lead distribution software for all of the boring, shitty parts of the business that you don't want to deal with and get a VA to take care of it all. And then your time will go to your buyers, making more ad creatives, different things like this that are actually going to help you grow, okay? Now we've talked a lot about buyers. How do we actually get buyers? Well, you could do a couple of different ways of buyer acquisition. The first thing is you could go on Google Maps and look for local buyers in your area and just say, hey, cold call them and just say, hey man, I'm in this area, blah, 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 blah. I never really, so I won't be able to help you much on that. But what I will say is that if you cold call people, you'll get a buyer if you do it enough volume. You're guaranteed to get a buyer essentially if you do enough volume. You just have to make all those calls. And it sucks, but you got to do it, right? If you want to do something good in life, you must do a massive amount of volume, and that will essentially prevent you from failing. Now, the next is there's Facebook groups. There's also cold email. There's also LinkedIn DMs. There's also brokers and referrals. There's pay-per-call networks. So pay-per-call networks is something that I have. I have a pay-per-call network. So, okay, hey, maybe you can sell to me, you could broker my traffic. And so essentially this is what I'm doing with YouTube, is that I'm hoping you're going to want to be like, oh, shit, Kelly knows what he's doing. I want to sell his leads because we get a lot of really good leads. And so that will help me and help you. So this is why I'm making these YouTube videos, just so you know. But yeah, there's also cold email. And then you have, lastly and finally, you have Kelly's favorite, which is meta ads, baby. Meta ads are my favorite way to get clients. This is the number one method of client acquisition. This is the alpha, okay? This is the alpha brev. Is meta ads, okay? Now, meta ads are good because they're consistent and you can know that, hey, I can turn $1 of ads into $3 of revenue because it's so predictable. You have everything predictable. Cold email is less predictable. LinkedIn DMs aren't predictable. All of that stuff is stuff that you have to put in time and effort, where meta ads, it's Facebook doing all the effort for you, okay? You make ads, you post them on Facebook, then the ads will book you calls, and then the calls you get on and you close sales calls. It's much easier and requires less manual effort. It's just, it requires more upfront financial risk. But if you have the money, I would say even don't do anything else but meta ads. Like, I mainly run meta ads to get buyers. It's like 98% of how I get buyers is just meta ads. The other 2% is obviously you need the full funnel, like having a newsletter, or having, cold email, or having partnerships, or, broker networks and things like that. That's how you get everything situated once you get there, but it takes time. So it's like, okay, what can I do today to be able to get customers? Well, I know that I can make some ads, even if it's on Canva or whatever it is. I still make a ton of ads on Canva. You can make ads on Canva and get buyers, okay? If you spent $50 a day, you can get buyers, all right? So don't discount meta ads and what everybody else says on the internet. It's like, oh, you should do this thing, where it's like, bro, they all work. You just have to put in time. Like, this is what people don't get, is like, okay, you hear all this advice where it's like, there's so many different ways you could do everything. Like, of course, everybody's going to make videos on, this is the best new way to do blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, bro, meta ads, run more ads. Like, literally that simple, bro. All right. So next, sorry, I get really fired up about meta ads, but next is going to be your compliance. But in compliance, you need compliance. As I was talking about, most people do like SMS, do all this stuff to generate leads, and they're like so stupid because they're going to get caught eventually. They're going to get fucked, but let them do what they want to do. We can do it the right way and make 10 times the money that they make. So yeah, very cool. Compliance is super important to do, because this is the way you get big buyers, is by showing them you have a compliant operation. Okay. So this is something where you have one-to-one consent with all of the leads. You have proof of the consent. So you use something like Trusted Form or to set this up. You have your A2P registration with JHL or with another CRM, and you have all of your call recording. So you must announce on every call that, hey, we're recording this call. I'm sure you've heard it when you talk to telemarketers. Hey, we're recording this call, blah, blah. So that helps you get bigger buyers, because they need that stuff to go take back to their, their like HR team and shit like that, their compliance team. So your agreement should include, with all of your buyers, what lead spec you're giving them, the price per unit plus the scope of exclusivity, the replacement, the dispute terms, and the deadlines. It should also include the payment terms, the term and termination, whether it's weekly or when either side can walk from the agreement, and then the data handling. So this is like the data handling, okay? Compliance is really like how your data is handled, what consent language you have on it, whether they have like an opt-in button. So that's super important to remember, is like, people are scared of doing this shit. Like, you gotta be compliant. Like, I'm being honest, like, you really gotta be compliant, because it's gonna help you so much more in the long run. Now, the next is your ops, okay? So basically, how do the ops and quality of this actually work? So if a buyer flags a call, right, or they flag a lead, is this valid against the spec sheet that you laid out in your agreement? Well, if, hey, if not valid, then you just reject and you show them the timestamps, the recording, and the consent certification, and then they have to pay you for it. But if it is valid, you replace, okay? You do it quickly. You will have much more better trust rather than keep being like, blah, blah, blah. You're better off just replacing the lead, okay? Speed builds trust with these people, especially when you're selling to buyers that actually know what they're doing, all right? Because then it looks like you know what you're doing, right? When you have speed with shit, okay? That's the point. Then you get paid, okay? So first things first, when you get paid, you have new buyers prepay, then you can move to a net 7, and then if they don't pay you, you pause delivery 7 days late, and there's no exceptions, okay? So this is how you get paid. This is how the invoices work. So remember, new buyers will prepay the pilot, then weekly invoices, then pause delivery. Now, when a buyer says the leads suck, you can do one of three things, actually. You check their speed to lead. So how fast were they following up with the leads? Then you want to check the answers the people on the quiz or the call had. You want to check the intent. And only then, after you check all of those things, then you check your ads and are like, all right, do my ads suck? Well, you do that after you check how their sales is. Then you check the quiz and see how intentful the leads were. And then you can change your ads. Don't do all of them at once because you don't know if they have a shitty sales team and everybody's going to lie to you and be like, yeah, dude, we have such a good sales squad. Like, we close at 20%. It's like, no, you fucking probably don't, honestly. Like, you probably have a shit sales floor, okay? But some people have such dialed sales floors. Like, I've worked with people that have such awesome sales teams, and they're so awesome to work with. The people who have bigger businesses, who know what they're doing. I've worked with some really awesome guys that have good sales squads. And bro, people who are good at sales are awesome to work with because they will tell you where the leads are dropping off. And it's good. Don't look at these people like you're competing with them. Like, you're trying to help them and you want to know from their reps exactly how the leads are doing. So get in touch with the reps, get built into their sales squad, understand how their business works. Like, this is a business and it's not just like fun and games. Let's make a shit ton of money. No, like, you want your leads to be good. You want to work with their team. You want to make sure that you have good leads, build a good reputation for yourself. Like, this is what business and doing this for real actually looks like, okay? It's not just some rah, let's go to Dubai and make a shit ton of money. Like, no, bro. Like, check your leads, talk to, run a real business. Okay, here is something that I do every day that will certainly help you. First is my 15-minute daily routine. So first thing I do when I wake up is I check my spend, I check my CPL or my cost per call versus the target. Then after that, I confirm that every lead was delivered and contacted. Then I will handle any disputes we've had within 24 hours. And then I kill any creatives above a 2x target ROAS, or not a target ROAS, could be a target CPL or CPC with nothing to show. And then you just send one message to a prospective new buyer. And if you can do that every day, you will be successful in this industry. Now, weekly, you should go over this stuff with your team. So you should recap the buyer's numbers. You should kill or scale creatives every Friday. You should reconcile all of your invoices. And always, every Friday, you should try to improve one thing on your funnel that you can improve before the weekend ends. If you can do that, that will ultimately lead and teach you how to do this at a much better rate. So, okay, now, how do we actually scale this thing? So basically, scaling really is just like a tree of decisions, okay? When people are like, let's fucking scale, bro. It's like, okay, what does that actually entail? Well, okay, buyers are wanting more than you deliver. Well, okay, boom, you go to this decision where it's you send more volume, you get more buyers, and you raise your prices 10 to 20% in the same niche. So usually what I try to do is if the buyers want more, the next buyer, I will try to raise my price by 10%. And if they do that, then I go, okay, now I could get more buyers at a higher price, and then I go do that. And then if not, then it's like I keep price the same, go find more buyers at the same price, or sell more leads to that buyer at that cost, right? If not, you want to go wider. So basically, if they don't want more, you want to clone this same thing into another niche or another vertical. And it's the same playbook, okay? So that's how this works in other verticals, is you want to basically make sure you have, your first vertical set, and then you could do it. Okay. So after this, what you have is the hybrid offer, right? So you have your calls and your leads. Okay. So sometimes you'll sell calls during business hours, and then you could sell leads after hours. So for first hires, what you need to do is you should have a VA for quality assurance. You should have disputes and delivery person, and then you should have a media buyer paid on, a percentage of profit, or you could pay them on, just say a media buyer regular salary. For me, I get media buyers and I pay them a percentage of profit. You know why I do that? Because I hire fucking studs, all right? I hire stud media buyers who know what they're doing, and this is why I, am able to do much better than a lot of other people, because we have this, okay? So now, next thing is first 90 days of this is the way your pace should look. So by day 30, if you follow these steps exactly, you should have at least a niche live, you should have a paying buyer, and you should be at or near break even. Day 60 is you have 2 to 3 buyers, you're profitable, and your prices are raised at least once. Day 90 is you're at a $10,000 a month plus pace, you have a VA hired, and you might potentially be able to add another niche, or you add in calls. I would recommend adding in calls or adding in leads before you move to another niche. All right? And so this is what your first 30 days should look like. Okay? This is your action plan. So week 1, you should pick your niche. You should write out the spec sheet of your leads. You should build your first quiz funnel for B2B and B2C, and you should set up tracking. Week 2, you should launch your B2B ads at $50 to $100 a day. You should make 3 to 5 creatives a day, and then you should get your first leads for buyers. You need to make sure you have good speed to lead, so speed to lead for your buyers. Then next, week 3, you should start sending at least 20 to 30 buyer emails or messages per day. You should book your pilot calls, and then so you should close 1 prepaid pilot by week 3, 1 prepaid pilot test, where it's like, okay, maybe we test only a couple of leads, and then you start delivery of your leads. Okay, then week 4 is where you start to replace leads if you need to, you collect testimonials, you raise your volume or you raise your price, and then you start buyer number 2. So this is your pre-launch checklist before you do all of this. You should have your niche picked, and then your spec sheet written. You should have your funnel live with your TCPA consent on the form. You should have your pixel or your CAPI firing. You need to test this. Your CRM and pipeline ready. Your A2P should be registered. You should make 3 to 5 creatives a day at $50 to $100 a day. And you should build a 50-person or 50 buyer prospecting list. Now, you know more than 95% of people who are selling leads already. So this is the whole map. And if you want this whole Miro board, it's going to be in the description. Just go fill in. All you have to do is put in your email. But that's it. So go out there, go make some money selling leads. And this is exactly how to run a pay-per-lead business in 2026. Peace.